In this video, let's talk about WPA2 and WPA3. If your routers or access points were purchased in recent years, it's very possible they already support WPA3, but many people either never think of changing the settings or they worry about the compatibilities from their old Wi-Fi devices, so they don't want to make the change. Here I'm showing you an example configuration page from Ubiquiti access points. As you can see, it has WPA2, WPA3, and it even has a option for WPA2/WPA3. I'm going to have two videos for this topic. First, in general, why you may want to consider to change the security setting to WPA3. And in my second video, I'm going to discuss specifically about Ubiquiti's WPA2 versus 3 settings. Okay, so let's get started. WPA stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access. This is the Wikipedia article about the WPA. As you can see, WPA2 has been around for almost 20 years. I believe most, if not all of your routers and Wi-Fi clients support WPA2. WPA3 is relatively new. It was only announced about 5 years ago. The main difference between these two standards, WPA3 replaces PSK exchange with SAE exchange. Here I'm showing you two articles from Wikipedia about PSK and SAE. I won't talk about all the details. SAE resolves a problem in WPA2, which is offline dictionary attack. No matter your security setting is WPA2 or WPA3, the four-way handshake approach is used in the authentication process between your Wi-Fi client and AP. You may see many places talking about the four-way handshake. It's so important in Wi-Fi security because during this process, both the Wi-Fi client and the access points or your router, they don't trust each other yet. They need to prove themselves during the process. That's exactly where the hackers are seeking for holes in your system. In the right side of the screen, I'm showing you a Wikipedia article about IEE standard for 802.11i. It describes the four-way handshake process. To put it in a simple way, the four-way handshake process resolves the problem that without exposing the key, how the client and the AP trust each other and to complete the authentication process. This is Wireshark, which I used to capture some Wi-Fi packets. Here I'm showing you how the four-way handshake works in action. I already color-coded different type of frames in Wireshark. The light blue one is the initial probe response from my Unify access point to iPhone. So now iPhone initiate the authentication process. The Unify AP says, let's proceed. The association request started. See these four red color messages. They are for the four-way handshake process. In the first message, the AP send a announce value to the Wi-Fi client. Then based on the MAC address of the web Wi-Fi client and the AP, and based on the announce and based on the WPA2 password, which you already told the Wi-Fi client, the Wi-Fi client can calculate or construct the so-called PTK, then send out the S-nonce and MIC in the second message shown here. Similar process happened in the AP side. AP will do some calculation using the announce, S-nonce, and using the MAC addresses of the client and AP to construct PTK independently. And then in the end, after the third and fourth messages, both client and the AP prove themselves, the authentication process can be completed. In the interest of time, we won't discuss the details about what's announce, S-nonce, and MIC, but the important thing you need to know is to construct the so-called PTK in both ends. It's a fairly straightforward process. It only incorporates these 5 important pieces of information. For WPA2, the PMK, you can think of it as an equivalent representation of your Wi-Fi password. So both client and the AP should know the correct Wi-Fi password. And then the announce is provided by AP to the client in the first message. Announce is provided from client to the AP in the second message. Because these two are communicating with each other, of course, they know their own MAC addresses and the other side's MAC addresses, right? So all the 5 pieces of information are known to both client and AP. That's why they can do the PTK construction independently. These 5 pieces of information, except for PMK, which is unknown to the hacker, the hacker can also capture these 4 pieces of information. In the remaining part of the video, I'm going to show you why WPA2 theoretically can be hacked using the offline dictionary brute attack approach. WPA2 was introduced in 2004, but only in 2016 a very serious problem was identified. It's called crack. If you are interested, you can check this Wikipedia article. Basically, it's a flaw in the standard itself. So as long as your Wi-Fi client and your routers, they implement the WPA2 standard correctly, they will have the problem. It's not the defect of some individual routers or clients. The hacker can use the flaw in the third message to hack into the system. Already several years passed, the problem had been fixed in all the major operating system and software, so you don't need to worry too much about this. It's just an example for WPA2's historical issues. Next, let's talk about dictionary attack if you use WPA2 as your authentication setting in your routers. Because of the way how WPA2 works, it's possible hackers can do offline dictionary attack to guess your password. Offline and dictionary are 2 keywords. If offline is not possible, the hackers can only do online attack. After several failures, your AP can simply reject further tries, right? If it's offline, it's out of your control. As long as the hackers try long enough, theoretically, it's possible your password will be guessed in the end. Of course, the easiest way to do offline password guess is by using dictionary. The pure brute attack may not work out considering the long runtime. Here I'm showing you an example. I'm going to demo how I can use 2 common Linux tools to easily guess the password if the password is not complicated enough. In my lab environment, I have a unified access point and I have a MacBook to connect to the AP using WPA2. I'm running a separate Linux machine to capture the 4-way handshakes using this air dump tool, and then once the packets are captured, will be saved offline to a file, and then use another tool, air correct, to read the captured file, then use some existing dictionaries to guess the password. Let's go back to the 4-way handshake. Why the hackers can do the hacking theoretically is all because how the PTK is constructed. As we discussed, the hacker, just like your Wi-Fi client and AP, the hacker can also see announce, MAC for both Wi-Fi client and access point. The only thing the hackers don't know is the Wi-Fi password. But see the second message, the Wi-Fi client need to send the announce and MIC back to AP. The way MIC is calculated is by using the PTK to calculate MIC. So the hackers can try a password, calculate a PTK, and then calculate a MIC, compare the calculated MIC with the captured MIC to see whether they match. If they match, that means the guessed password is the correct one. That's how it works. I'm going to use this type of screen layout for the demo. On top right, you have the unified network controller for Wi-Fi configuration, and the bottom left is for my Wi-Fi client, a MacBook Pro, and the bottom right is the Linux, which I'm going to use to guess the password. First, let's check the current security setting in my lab environment. I'm in the Unified Network Controller for Wi-Fi settings. For this particular SSID, Z-none, let me enable the password preview. You can see I set it to a password which is, you cannot say it's not very secure because it has letter, it's not a English word, and it has number. I picked this particular one because I know some people prefer this particular password because they think it is very secure. Okay, so this is my Wi-Fi password, and I only enabled 5G just for our convenience when we capture packets in this demo. Let's scroll to the security part. I select the WPA2. That's the current easy security setting. I believe most of your routers or home access points you set in a very similar way, right? Okay, let's go to Linux. Next, let me first display the existing wireless interface. As you can see, there's only one Wi-Fi interface. It's called WLAN 0. Then let me add a new Wi-Fi interface just for the packets capturing purpose. It's called MON0 and the type is monitor. Then delete the existing WLAN 0 interface. Then bring up the MON0 interface which we just created. Now the new interface is ready to be used. As you can see, currently the channel is 1, width is 20 MHz, which are not really what we want to use in this testing. We are going to change them later. Now let's run the first command, which is crucial in this process. The command is error dump ng, and it's used to capture the 4-way handshake Wi-Fi packets. And I specify the channel 149 and width 40 MHz. We will discuss how we know the information later. And then I provide BSSID, which means I'm only interested in this particular SSID. Again, we are going to discuss how I find it out. Keep in mind, hackers, they don't really need to know all the information because they can scan all the available channels with an SSID to find the weak points. But for this demo, because I already know all the information, so that's why I'm providing them here. -w specify, okay, I want to write the captured packets in a file which is WPA2 dump. And then in the end, I need to specify the interface name is MON0. That's the one we just created in Linux. Let me show you how I get the information to run the Linux command tool. This is the Unified Network Controller. Let me click the access point and scroll down under the WLAN section. You see all the SSIDs I defined. The second one, Z-none, is the one we are trying to use to capture the packets. From here, I get the BSS ID, channel, and the width. I use this information in the Linux command tool. Run the command. Now it's listening from the MacBook Pro. Let me connect to Wi-Fi. It will be displayed in the command output. Now you see the new line. That's the MacBook connection. We are good because the MacBook already connected to the Wi-Fi. Kill the command. As you can see in my home folder, I have the WPA2 dump file captured. Having the 4-way handshake packets captured, now we are ready to correct it. I'm running the second Linux command, error correct ng. The W option specify the dictionary file we want to use. I'm just using some built-in file came with the OS. And the second parameter is the captured file itself. So pretty simple. Let me run it. Amazingly, within 1 second, it already corrected the password. As you can see, it's showing key found and the correct password we just used. It only used less than 1% of the dictionary file. That's how easy your password can be correct if your password is using normal English word or it's in the common password used by many people in the world. If it happens to be in the dictionary file used by the hacker, if your password is long enough, randomized enough, the hacker may have to use brute force way to correct your password. It may become mission impossible. To resolve the WPA2's problem that the four-way handshake packets can be captured and the password may be guessed in a offline approach, WPA3 was introduced in 2018. One of the main change is to use SAE to replace PSK. We won't have enough time to talk about all the details. Basically, SAE is based on the Dragonfly key exchange and is supposed to be more secured than the PSK way in WPA2. Let me show you some example which I captured when WPA3 is used. On the screen, I show you two Wireshark sessions. The left one is for WPA2, the right one is WPA3. The exact same access point and the exact same Wi-Fi client. The only difference is the left one is using WPA2 personal, the right one is WPA3 personal. You can see the packets are pretty similar on the surface. For example, in the left, you see the 4 messages for the four-way handshake. In the right part, you still see the 4 message. WPA3 still uses four-way handshake, but the difference happens before the handshake. The left side, you only see 2 authentication packets. In the right, you see 4. Those authentication packets are related to the Dragonfly key exchange or SAE. After this part is done, yes, the hacker can still capture your four-way handshake packets, but if they want to try the same approach, try to offline correct it, they will receive error because there's no way to guess the password just by the offline captured packets. That's why WPA3 is more secure than WPA2. I know we don't have enough time to talk about all the details for WPA3, but hope this video can give you some confidence when switching to WPA3. Okay, thanks for watching.